Canon EOS 7D Mark II Review. To pinch the well-known slogan, good things come to those who wait. And wait we have. For the Canon EOS 7D Mark II is a DSLR that has shunned the typically frequent product cycle, instead taking 5 whole years to calculate its position in the market. It arrives at a time when such patience is a virtue. The camera market is more divisional than ever before, updates tend to be minor increments, and there's a lot more choice, not to mention newcomers may be tempted by smaller scale offerings. Tweaked design. Canon has been making cameras for an age, so it's a company with a breadth of experience. Its first DSLR arrived in the year 2000, preceded by 41 years of film SLR production, no less, and since then it's been tweaking the formula. By the 2009 launch of the EOS 7D, it had already created a DSLR camera that was hard to find any major fault with. That, coupled with the original's performance and image quality, is why everyone has been waiting with bated breath for the sequel.The EOS 7D MkII builds from that solid foundation, but doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. The controls to fall well to the hand, it's weighty but well balanced, large but not unwieldy, and gives ample spacing for grip and buttons. Again, it's spot on in that regard. We really can't fault it, except perhaps for the plasticky look of the top panels. Beautiful on the inside. Aside from that, it's largely what you can't immediately see that boosts the 7D2's appeal: the improved weather sealing, slots for both SD and CF card formats, and a 3.5mm jack for headphones monitoring added into the mix. The real meat comes from the enhanced systems on board though. There's a brand new 65-point all-cross-type autofocus system, new 150,000 pixel RGB infrared exposure meter, new shutter mechanism, to 200,000 cycles, faster burst mode to 10 frames per second, up from 8 FPS in the original 7D, and new 20.2 megapixel sensor too. But it's that autofocus system that really steals the show. Having used every one of Canon's current DSLR cameras, including the top-spec EOS 1DX, we'd say that there's probably no better system available in Canon's arsenal right now. That's down to a number of reasons. It's super fast too. Not that you'll always want to use the full arrangement of 65 points, but even when set to a single point, the sensitivity, it's dual sensitive to f/2.8, cross-type at f/8.0, at the center, never failed to whip a subject into focus. From the less than ideal crowd position at a Duran Duran gig, for example, we were able to snap Simon Le Bon without issue, well, when there weren't a sea of raised smartphones in front anyway. Shining in the dark. We pitched the EOS 7D Mark II against the Nikon D810, and side by side both produce exemplary responses in both good and low light conditions when using the center point. Technically the Canon has the upper hand here, as not only does it have more autofocus points, they are also all cross-type, and therefore all more sensitive in both portrait and landscape orientation. That might get sports photographers extra keen, while the -3 EV low-light autofocus ability is roughly as good as it gets these days. The Panasonic Lumix GH4 -4 EV sensitivity, for shooting handheld in moonlight conditions. We have successfully shot in dim conditions, handheld, without flash, out on the streets of Austin at night, either with only the aid of neon signs, passing car headlights, or distant road lighting. It's impressive. And there are plenty of options: 1 point, with or without center spot, 5-point expanded area in star arrangement, 9-point square or 15-point oblong zone arrangements, each over 3 rows, complete middle, 25-point, or left/right, 20-point, large array selections, and the full 65-point array in full auto. Whew, now take a breather. If you have a single point selection but want to select the full 65-point array instead, then the new toggle control makes it easy to cycle through the options with the viewfinder still raised to the eye. Just hit the AF area button with a thumb, then slide over to the toggle and thumb that without losing a sturdy grip. However, the various focus area options can be switched on or off within the menus, so if you only ever want to use single point and 9-point, for example, then the rest can be deactivated. By comparison, the Nikon DSLR range, which utilize the thumbwheel controls to cycle through the AF options, works in either direction, forward and back. However, the position of the Nikon AF selector to the lower front left of its high-end DSLR cameras means a less firm grip when adjusting with the camera raised to the eye, something the Canon betters in the 7D MkII's arrangement. But overall, the Canon EOS 7D MkII's autofocus system is an impressive step forward for the series that we've found to rarely falter. Can't say better than that. Live view speed. Flip the setup into live view to use the rear screen for focus, however, and the autofocus accuracy isn't always on point. The live view system is very fast to focus by DSLR standards, thanks to the use of on-sensor phase detection autofocus points, but sometimes subjects said to be in focus weren't. It's also not as complex as the 65-point system. Think of it as a watered-down option for occasional use, such as still life shots, as it's not great with moving subjects. We would also have really liked the benefit of a touch screen here to press onto the screen for subject focus, but it remains absent. That rear 3-inch, 1.04 m dot panel is also fixed to the camera. It's not a tilt or vari-angle panel like some other DSLR competitors offer. Think of the EOS 70D within Canon's own range, or even the Nikon D750 if you're after a full-frame camera with a tilt-angle screen. Now these qualms won't be a deal breaker for many stills photographers, or those who are used to having a DSLR glued to a single eye, but considering the 7D Mark II's push in the video capture department, more on that later, some will see these points as lacking. Image quality. The big kahuna. The core principle behind any camera purchase. Yep, it's image quality time. We'll preface by saying that we've been blown away by the 7D2's overall capability in a wide range of conditions. So even if the second generation 7D isn't a gigantic leap forward that boosts image quality by half a dozen stops, it's still strong enough to assert the 7D Mark II as the best APS C DSLR camera that we've seen. It won't surpass a full-frame model, but it won't fail to impress either. Even if it represents the apparent ceiling of current image quality. Bells and whistles. There are plenty of additional features worthy of mention too. The Canon EOS 7D Mark II has integrated GPS for geotagging images, but, oddly, no built-in Wi-Fi. There is a USB 3.0 port, though, for speedy transfer of files over a wired connection. The GPS can be set to update its position at intervals from every second through to every 5 minutes, includes a digital compass and GPS logger, each of which can be disabled as desired. If you don't want to go fully manual for focusing, then autofocus options come in face tracking or flexi-zone multi/single forms. It works as well as does in live view, which means good performance for a DSLR, but moving subjects can still outsmart the system in our view. Pros will likely rig up and use manual focus pulls anyway. Verdict. Let's cut to the chase. We're yet to use an APS C sensor DSLR camera that's impressed us more than the Canon EOS 7D Mark II. It was definitely worth the wait. However, those thinking of upgrading from the original 7D who are hoping for a giant leap in image quality might not find as big a jump forward as their minds desire. The newer model is better and delivers more resolution, but it's a similar story here as it was between 5D second and third generations. That said, we can't think of an APS C sensor that performs better than the 7D MkII, so it's hardly a negative. There are some feature absences that we would like to have seen on board too, such as a tilt-angle screen, touch-sensitive operation, Wi-Fi integration, and 4K video capture. But even these omissions aren't a deal-breaker for us. Having used the 7D Mark II for a week, we've been able to shoot at a gig, in the city in both day and night light conditions, and have come to appreciate just how capable that new 65-point autofocus system is. The battery life is great and better than the official quota, while layout, performance, and resulting image quality are all exemplary.